Kingy, what were your overarching views last night?
How can the Dogs not brain the Swans given the midfield dominance? I thought that's the best I've seen Tim English play for a while in absolute ruck work, not round the ground as a ruck rover. They got plenty of those. Liberatore was on fire early. Bontempelli is the most extraordinary talent.
How good was he last night?
He's just amazing. I don't know if I've seen him. Well, he's in a handful of players that I've seen as consistent week in, week out A-grade performances. If he's not best on ground, he's in the top 4 or 5 every week. And I just don't know how you don't bank those wins, Cornsey. I'm at a loss how the Dogs didn't find a way to win that game last night.
I'm a bit similar as well. And I think probably they were done tactically in a sense. I mean, it was a domination in the first quarter. They had almost double the amount of disposals. They took 6 marks inside forward 50 in the first quarter. Centre bounce was 6-2. And you go, oh, this is Sydney's issue. And there it is again. And they've got no ruckman. They didn't have a ruckman. They didn't play one last night. So you're thinking, this is a long way back for Sydney with this domination. Libber, as you said, and Bond's performance. But they found a way, and they found a way through surging the ball forward. Now, whether the Dogs were aware of that, whether they were able to protect against that, it didn't look like it. I just want to play, this was my best bit. Because John Longmire in game 300, he was delighted after the game, and he was delighted at the way his team gritted out that win. And it just looked like it meant more to them with their season essentially finished than it did to the Dogs.
I want to give a special rap to a couple of the Swans players. Like Ollie Florent is the player we don't talk enough about. I think he's had a really good patch in the last few weeks. He's been hitting the scoreboard. He's become a goal kicker. He's a dangerous player. He's just been a bit of a bits and pieces player over the last few years. And I wondered whether he'd get to high-level AFL footy there for a while, Cornsey. So I thought he was really critical last night. In stages last night, he was really important. So I just find the Swans are going to lean on those guys a lot. Goulden was exceptional.
How good was he as well?
I think he had a dozen inside 50s for the night. It was just ridiculous. It was Bontempelli versus Goulden there for a long time last night. Second, third quarters.
Yeah, it was. And both of their, one of the best bits last night. So when I was watching at home, I was like, why is it that they're so dominant in this game? And Bontempelli and Goulden, they're different players, but their ability to work from contest to contest and follow up and just to hunt the ball. Mark Williams used to call it, he always rings in my ear, go on, hunt the ball. That's what they did. Like, you can picture it. Goulden following up, and then as soon as he sniffed that his team was going to win it, he sprinted. And Bontempelli is more... he's more of a sort of slow Pendlebury type mover, but he just worked from contest to contest. And at times I was going, is anyone going to go near these two blokes? They're the only ones on the ground that looked the match winners in the midfield, and no one went near them. So they allowed them to play like that. But look, I really enjoyed the game of footy, but I guess that the biggest talking point is what it means for the Dogs. And once again, you go, well, they concede 6 out of 7 goals in a run-on. As a coach, he has been unable to stop run-ons. Okay, you look at the selection and you go, well, if Darcy's playing, Darcy plays back for me. I thought Lobb goes out and that's fine, but you go with a bit more of a dynamic forward line, particularly at the SCG. You've got Waitman who's in good form, you got Hugo Hagen's in great form, and Norton's starting to build. You didn't need Darcy to play forward, did you, last night, King? I know he was there to be the second ruck, but I just look at these bizarre decisions that they make time and time again, and once again it didn't work last night. I know he got injured, but... was he ready to play? Was he ready to play as a forward? You'd have to question that.
It's what they do, mate. It's what they do. They load up in the forward half. I mean, I don't know how many times I can talk about the intercept defender.
Couple of times.
I reckon the intercept defender, every coach tells me that the intercept defender is the number one player in the comp. Whoever it is at your team. Harris Andrews, is it Lever and May, is it Darcy Moore, who is it, right? Every time we have this conversation with a coach and I say, what's the most important position on the ground, they say, an intercept defender. Who is that for the Dogs?
Well, it was Jones, and he got injured, so you got to find another one.
And Jones is like 32. He's the last man on your list, effectively.
So now it's Richards, who's your height. Like, he's 188 centimetres, you know. Like,
let's not hang it on my height.
So Darcy...
You're not much taller, Darcy,
well, our height. Darcy's that guy, but if he's not ready to go, he's not ready to go. So if you say, we're going to pick Sam Darcy, but... and I think he might have said this during the week, he's not ready to play as a defender. Well, don't pick him. Find another way. Try Rory Lobb in defence. Try whoever it is. But their selection, like O'Donnell again, you've picked a guy who's probably, as good a story as it is, not ready. So I don't know, the stubbornness for Luke Beveridge. He's lost me. So if I'm going to make a statement this morning, he's lost me a bit, Luke Beveridge, and it's been building to this point for a while. Everyone would kill for the list that they've got, the Dogs, and there's selection issues that he makes. There's tactical issues that he makes, and he can't stop and halt momentum, and he's not maximising the assets that he's got. And you can look to Bailey Smith as well. How Bailey Smith isn't in that side, and don't give me... Well, you can try and give me illness, but I'm not going to cop illness. Why you can't get the best out of a player at 20 years of age who looked like he was going to take this competition by storm is another example of, I don't know, there's some questions over the coach's
give him
ability.
some grace on that one. I think you'll give him some grace on the last one because there's a mental health issue there as well. I don't know why you're shocked. Can I tell you why I don't know?
I'm not. It's been building for a while.
Mate, eighth last year, fifth the year before, seventh, 13th, 10th, 7th, 6th, 14th, 15th. That's their home and away finishes.
So why re-sign him in the off season? Surely you go, okay, great coach, going to go down in our Hall of Fame. Everyone's going to put a sign up and say premiership coach, and that year was extraordinary. But why not wait until the halfway point of the year to re-sign him? And I know coaching contracts don't mean a whole lot. If they want to make a call at the end of the year, they can. But
would you make the call? Here we go. Here's a chance for you to really drive one home. If it was up to you and you had your hands on the purse strings at the Western Bulldogs, and you know that Hardwick's available, you know there's others available around the edges, whether it's Ken Hinkley or whether it's Adam Simpson or whether it's Damien Hart, whoever, or a younger option, would you exercise the option to explore other options in 2024?
I think it's time. Yeah, I do. I think he's been there too long. And once again, the coach's job is to maximise what you got. He doesn't do that and hasn't been able to do that for 7 years. It's 7 years now. And last year's final series is another example of that. This group has been wasted, and it would be a real shame that they are an average football team with the list that they've got. So at the end of the year, not now, clearly, at the end of the year, I would be having serious conversations about moving on from Luke Beveridge as coach. I would.
See, people will come with a counter-argument that if they kick one more goal last night, that they're a chance to be fourth.
But they're playing a bottom six team.
I agree.
Who didn't have a ruckman, Kingy.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm just sort of saying that the counter-argument is that. But even that being said, they're a long, long way off the top three teams.
Miles. Their record against top 8 sides this year was 1-6 or something.
So they get it wrong in the off-season, or have they got it wrong in season? The Rory Lobb discussion's a big one. It's different to Grundy because Lobb hasn't. What has he done the last couple of years? I mean, you're not getting a dual Australian coming in.
I know, but
there.
And once again, you could point to not getting the best out. He kicked 38 goals last year. How handy would 38 goals be? So that's the player they thought they were going to get, and they haven't been able to make that work. The disruption of going so tall through the preseason, you could look to. How did they train? Is everything they trained in the preseason gone after round 2? These are all questions that I think the footy department need to sit them down and analyse and review on what they're getting out of this group. Because for me, it's a waste.
Let's talk about it then.
Yeah,
let's have the chat.
So he mentioned that. I reckon I listened back to it last night. 4 times he mentioned he's at a team that now really values him. Now, I was okay with the acquisition. I just want to put my hand up and say, look, if they're going to pay part of his salary, you're not giving up a whole lot to get him. I don't exactly know how it's going to work, Kingy, but I think it was worth a shot. But 16 games in, it's now off, and Brodie Grundy essentially becomes a backup ruckman to Max Gawn.
Does he? See, this is where I disagree slightly. I think that at this stage of the year, before you hit the premiership runway, which is about round 21, where you got a month run in, get yourself finely tuned. You've got to look at a few different options. So what's not working? They're not getting full-toed odds out of the ruck situation. So is that they've split the level of importance, and Max is not having the dominance on games that he once has had? Is Max still the man? I think this is the challenge. I think Simon Goodwin's saying, right, you know what? We've probably muddied the waters a little bit. 2 ruckman hasn't worked. We're going back to you. So we want to know whether you could, in the next 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, can you rediscover your All-Australian ruck form and be the captain we need you to be? So I think there's a challenge there. And then I think you get the side effect of every other team member. So very similar to what happened with Gunston and Rich up north at the Brisbane Lions. they go, hang on, we've just dropped Brodie Grundy. I better do everything right to keep my spot because clearly the gloves are off.
I think it's a bit more awkward than that, though, because this is a team that made a pitch, that went after him. They lost Jackson. This is going to work, and we've heard, and we got some real insight into this through the documentary that Stan did on the pitch that went to Brodie Grundy and his management, and this is going to work. So for a big game against a very good ruckman and a very solid and well-balanced midfield in the Lions, and a game you must win, it feels a bigger move to me than the way you just described it.
No, I think that's the discussion today at round 18. They went to purchase an advantage on the competition, and they thought their advantage would come through stoppage. Get another gun ruckman in. Maybe we can use Max forward. Maybe we can look at how we can best use these guys over the first 2 or 3 months of the season. I always felt in the back of my mind that Simon had an ace in the deck that he was going to play late. I didn't think it was going to involve him not being in the team. I thought that they might find a way to have Brodie Grundy do the ruck centre forward and Max do the ruck centre back and be that rolling back intercept marker that he's been over the last few years. Do you think that this is it? Do you think we'll see Brodie Grundy again in Melbourne colours in 23?
I guess it depends on how it goes. Like, if they have a really strong performance, Max gets back to his best, it's going to be hard to change the team next week. So it'll depend on the short term. If it doesn't work, then they might go back to it. But then the extra scrutiny that this places on that, and everyone looking, going, "Oh, this isn't working. Like, what are they going to do now?" So what's their next move after this one? There's a big move to make, because I don't think there's a follow-up move. Yeah, you can come back in, but then if it doesn't work, what do? Drop him again? And for a young player like Van Rooyen, he's going to have to play. Like, you can't just bring him in, take him out, bring him in, take him out. So, look, and then the longer-term view is he's got 4.5 years.
Yeah, that's
left on this deal.
But Max doesn't have 4.5 years.
No, but Max is 32. Grundy's about to turn 30. So there is that option
they will need him
for him to take over, but not in the short term when you've got a 6-time All-Australian.
So I think he only comes back in as a forward now.
But he can't.
So it sounds like he's been sent back down to the VFL.
Has he looked capable to you as a forward, though? Like, not really for me.
You still got to use him, though, don't you? He's still an asset that maybe it's not. Maybe it hasn't worked in the ruck. Can it work somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know. But I like the aggressive and adventurous off-season move.
So did I.
I've got to say.
I did too. Yeah. I did too. So there's no criticism over this. It's just how they're going to manage it. I thought they would have said, "Oh, look, he's been managed," but they didn't. They said credit to them. They were transparent. He's been omitted. I'm really interested now when the club speaks, and then how they manage what is going to be an elephant in the room, really, when you went after this guy, and now he's essentially a backup ruckman.
So would you prefer, the question, I'd love the listeners' feedback on this, would you prefer your club have a crack like this and get it wrong than not have a crack? Than just to play a bit safer, hang on to your salary cap space, maybe go a different way? Or did you see this coming as a Melbourne fan? So why are we getting 2 rucks when we've already got Max?
And once again, like, I look at Sydney and go, they didn't do anything in the off-season, and that was a mistake that they made. So that they needed more depth. They needed to make some changes to their list. Seeing what Collingwood and Brisbane and what Port Adelaide have done with Horn Francis and Rioli who have come in, they did nothing. So you'd much rather than, for me, have a crack. It hasn't worked, but now it's about how you manage this situation.
But huge game tonight. Melbourne at the MCG take on the Brisbane Lions. If the Brisbane Lions do not win tonight, given what we've talked about with Brodie Grundy, their problems up forward, their problems across the ground, really, except for all things defensive and all things back six related, they just have to win tonight, the Lions. If they don't win tonight, I can't see them winning the flag.
And I'm a bit the other way with the D's. Like, I think it's such a big statement game for them, and I know they've got some injuries to key players and Fritsch and Oliver out. So I just think, the ramifications of this game are significant. It's going to be a big talking point after. I reckon Brisbane have learnt a little bit. I reckon they've gone a bit faster. So Robertson comes out. Last time I think they played the MCG against Hawthorn. Down back, Kitty Coleman was the sub. Wilmot gives them some pace. So I just think they've selected a team that is going to take on the MCG a little bit more and take on the opposition with their speed. Their midfield's flying. So, look, great challenge. But if they don't win this, it's going to be hard to see them winning the flag from top 2, Brisbane. So I agree with your point there. but Port Adelaide are vulnerable as well.
They can win it from 3. They just can't get beaten tonight. The Lions for me. Hey, when do we believe omitted and when do we disbelieve omitted? Because I'm looking at your Port Adelaide lineup tonight.
What are you thinking?
7 changes. Burton omitted, Hayes omitted, Narkle omitted, McKenzie and Ankle, Dixon, Horn Francis. It just rolls on. 7 changes.
What do you
changes.
What do you think they're up to then?
Is there a lot of resting going on? Are they starting to just menage the list now?
Don't think you can afford to rest, would be my view, because their next 4 is about as tough as it gets.
That's why you have to now.
Yeah, but I don't know about that, because I wouldn't be playing Lycett. Like, if you're going to rest everyone, there's no way Scott Lycett plays. So top 2 is vital for them. We know how important that is. So no, I don't. I just think they're genuinely, and I got a little bit of intel clearly on this, banged up, and there's a lot of sore bodies. But how bad's Ryan Burton going if he's been dropped from this group on the back of 7 changes? So he's going not great. Good to see Xavier Dersman back in, though. He's a young player who burst onto the scene, hasn't recaptured the form of his first year. So good opportunity for him and some other young players. But my point is that Carlton, if you are serious, the whole of the magnifying glass for this round should be on you. So don't give me you're playing. No, don't give me you're playing a top 2 team. You're playing a team under the roof of Marvel with Mackay and Curnow up against Aaliyah, and that is it. That's all they've got. So if they can't find a way to get this done, their midfield is flying. Port Adelaide have got a ruckman on one leg. They've got no Charlie Dixon. Their midfield has been decimated. They've got no small forward. I'm just telling you, the magnifying glass on the Blues. If you cannot get this done, we should not take you seriously for the rest of the year. Bit of pressure on you. How do you cope with that? Because your form's been good. There is no excuse, none, for them not to get that done tomorrow at Marvel.
You make me laugh.
None.
Hey, listen, when a coach gets sacked and the interim coach comes in, I'm fascinated by the ins and outs. Yes. Who did Stephen King not like in the lineup?
I'm a bit like that as well.
I went straight to it. Out for the Gold Coast Suns. Fiorini and Farah, straight out.
Yeah.
So Fiorini, I don't think you'll see their magnets on the ends for at least 2 weeks, at least 3 weeks.
Papers have been stamped, I think, for those 2.